What if I told you that there are foods that actually make you lose weight, suppress your appetite, and increase your metabolism? Well, there are, and today we're going to find out exactly what those are. If you are new to my channel, hey, I'm Healthy Emmy. I am thrilled that you're here. I am a nutritionist, a weight loss specialist, and the creator of the Slim on Starch program. To learn more about that, you can click the link in the down bar. And if you are interested in all things health, plant-based weight loss, and wellness, then click subscribe because I upload a new video every Wednesday and Saturday. Today, I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing the one and only Dr. Neal Barnard. He is the president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and has a new book coming out called The Power Foods Diet, which is linked in the description and you can pre-order on Amazon. So now let's find out what foods do speed up our metabolism, make us lose weight, and suppress our appetite. All right, well, let's get started. So, Dr. Barnard, this is our first time meeting virtually, but actually, just a little fun fact for everybody watching, about 6 years ago in Melbourne, Australia, at the Doctors for Nutrition conference, I have a fun story about us meeting.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so here's how it went down. It was a funny setup at the conference. The bathrooms were set up so that there was the men's restroom and the women's restroom. And in the middle, you washed your hands together. And I was washing my hands and I looked up and there you were. And I asked, will you take a selfie with me? And you said, sure. You were so kind and so personable. So that was about 6 years ago. And here we are now meeting virtually.
One of those bathroom selfies. What can you say?
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into it and talk about your new book. I was lucky enough to get an advanced copy of it, and it is tremendous, The Power Foods Diet. What I love about the title is that it has the word power in it. And I think the underlying sort of message that you're getting across by this, especially with individuals that are trying to lose weight, food is not something that we have to avoid and try not to eat and get into a calorie deficit by not eating. Instead, when we choose the right foods, we empower ourselves to release weight. And these foods can work with you as opposed to trying to dodge the bullets of just not eating to try to lose weight.
I love the way you put that. It is so true. You know, people are afraid of foods and we spend our lives thinking, okay, I better not eat this thing and I better not eat that and so forth. And I understand that because there are some foods that don't really love us back. But the fact of the matter is there are foods that do have power and that it's power for health. And these are foods that if we bring them into our routine more, we're going to be able to get really more power, just as you said, more power over our weight, which is the subject of this book, but our health in general as well.
Something else that I want to point out about this book, and I'm so excited for everyone watching to get a copy of it, is the way that it's written is so, for lack of a better term, easily digestible. And you're the highest level of intelligence, where I'll put a little visual on the screen of how I picture this. I say that there are 4 levels of intelligence and how well you understand a topic. And in level 1, it is, I don't understand it at all. I have no idea what anybody's talking about. Level 2 is, I can be in the conversation. I get it. I sort of know what people are talking about. Level 3 is, I can teach the topic to people in level 2. And then level 4 is where you are, where you can teach the topic to people in level 0. You have this magical way of taking very complex concepts that individuals with a biochemistry degree could understand, and you express it in terms that anybody can read it and understand it. And I think that's very much a testament to your character, in that you're not trying to impress people with how smart you are. You truly want to help individuals understand how simple it really is to be healthy, and you break it down in such a beautiful way.
Okay. Well, thank you for saying that. That's really very kind. But you know what we're really trying to do is to take, as you said, food power and make it available for anybody so that they can put it to work. Because most of the things that we've talked about here, the fact that certain foods can increase your metabolism, can help tame your appetite in a really healthy way. Those are things that your average person has never really heard of. So we need to make it available. But you know what else I've got to tell you? Some of the people who are kind of between levels 0 and 1 are medical doctors. They haven't had nutrition education, and they were a bit distracted in medical school by other things. And then so a patient might say, well, what should I eat to help me lose weight? They just kind of parrot things that they've read in a magazine or something like that. So if they can understand it, maybe.
You said it, not me, Dr. Barnard. Well, let's do a little teasing.
A little bit, but they do need to pick up a little bit more on nutrition.
It's a group effort. We're all doing our best out here to get across the truth. Let's do a little bit of teasing of some of the terrific topics that you go over in the book, and they're quite tantalizing. And without giving too much away, we'll talk a little bit about some of the facts that you reveal in the book. So one of the first things that you talk about is appetite taming foods. And this is so in vogue, as you do make mention to semaglutide and Ozempic and Wegovy. And you talk about how certain foods have the ability to elicit the same hormones that these appetite suppressing drugs do.
Yeah, it's really a surprising thing. And this started with some research studies that we were doing. We brought in people who wanted to lose weight. One of the first of these was 64 women. They were all after the age of menopause, and they were frustrated because they'd been gaining weight that they didn't want. And then they tried Atkins and South Beach and Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem and everything. They would lose a little bit of weight, but then it would come back, and they felt frustrated. And so we randomly assigned them to 2 different diets. One was what you think of as sort of a general healthy diet, less red meat, more chicken, more fish, keep oils a little bit low, that kind of thing. That was the control group. The experimental group was a completely vegan diet. And this was new for them. We had to explain to them that a vegan diet did not mean that you were from the planet Vegas or something like that. Just no animal products, keeping oils pretty low. But what we discovered was not only did they lose weight, and they lost weight without trying. They weren't exercising. In fact, we asked them not to change their exercise routines or anything else. Just eat these foods. They weren't limiting calories. They weren't limiting carbohydrates. In fact, they were eating more carbohydrates, but they were losing weight. But then we were trying to think, why? What's happening? And because they were free to eat as much as they wanted, but we measured how much they ate. We tracked every meal. And what we found is that they were eating 200 or 300 calories a day less than before. So what was happening is they were eating until they felt full. They thought they were eating a normal amount of food, but the foods were just taming their appetite. So they said they felt that they had eaten a full portion when they were actually eating substantially less. So we've repeated that many times, and we found it's a consistent effect. But then my research colleague, Hanna Kaliova, who is the head of our clinical research department, tested individual meals. And what she found was mind-blowing. And let me give you a little background, if you don't mind. Forgive me for this long-winded answer, because I just want to tell you a little bit of what's behind this. There's a chemical in your blood, a natural chemical called GLP-1. It's released by your intestinal tract when you eat food. And it goes to your brain and it turns down your appetite. Now, GLP-1 is natural. It's in your body, so nobody can patent it and sell it. So Novo Nordisk wanted to patent something that's a synthetic GLP-1, basically, or a GLP-1 agonist. And it goes to the brain and it turns down your appetite too, like GLP-1. But the question is, could you do this without injecting anything? And Dr. Kaliova brought in research participants, gave them one meal, a meat meal, a meal based on meat, kind of typical things people would eat. And you know what? It didn't really release much GLP-1. And that explained, okay, so meat eaters very often, they'll get full, but by the time they're full, they've eaten a lot of calories. She did the same experiment with the very same people one more time with a plant-based meal and found, bingo, as soon as they were eating, the GLP-1 level in their blood would rise and then fall. And so it would go to the brain and turn down their appetite, so they would stop eating. Okay, people go through life thinking, I'm hungry, I need to eat more food, I'm not satisfied yet. They are not getting the GLP-1 that their body wants them to have because they're not eating the foods that trigger it. So if a food is high in fiber, plant roughage, something that is not in cheese or meat. If it's high in complex carbohydrates, which is not in meat either, those are the things that your body responds to quickly and gives you more GLP-1. So anyway, that's just one little tiny sliver. But the point is, your appetite is something that if you know a couple tricks, you can control your appetite in a really gentle but effective way.
So, bringing it back to that title of the power that these foods have, you wrote a whole book about hormones. So you're the right guy for me to say this to, that, we hear people say, oh, my hormones are all out of whack. So I look at food and I gain weight. I just can't lose weight because of my hormones. But what you have argued and proven is that we can control certain hormones based on what we eat. And this is an example of that.
Oh, yes. You can control insulin, the insulin hormone, estradiol, testosterone, thyroid hormone. All of these things have a measure of control, which was really exciting to me to learn, because these are things that we think we've got to go to the clinic to deal with. But, this is not just our research. There are many teams that have been looking at these things. And I want to tip my hat to my friends at Harvard, who back in 2015 started tracking what a very large group of people, more than 100,000 people, were eating. And they tracked their weight and put two and two together, and they found that there are certain foods that if you're eating more of them as the years go by, you're going to be losing more weight. And I'm going to give you the list real quick. The top of the list was berries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. Okay. Number 2, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Number 3, green vegetables in general, like spinach or lettuce or whatever. Number 4, citrus fruits, like grapefruit or orange, or even orange juice. Number 5 was melon, and that could be cantaloupe or watermelon or others in that family. And number 6 was our big friend, the bean. So your black bean soup or bean burrito. And so then, going back to the berries, why? Well, a blueberry gets its color from anthocyanins, that's the purple color. And researchers in the UK 2 years later then did a follow-up study. They brought in almost 3,000 twins. And they did a DEXA scan, which shows you where the fat is on your body. And it turned out that within each twin pair, the one who ate the most anthocyanins, that's the purple color in blueberries, and other colors, the ones who had the most anthocyanins had about 9% less abdominal fat compared to her genetically identical sister. So genes aren't part of it. It's something about these foods. So my job was the fun job, to take findings and work with recipe developers and make sure that we were using the science, but just making it taste really good. That's it.
Another factor here that we haven't yet talked about, and I loved the visual for this in the book, was the calorie trapping that happens when fiber is still intact in the foods that we eat, which is why it's so important to eat the whole food. The visual is beautiful. And do you want to talk a bit about how we can kind of get these free meals, so to speak? When we eat foods that have the fiber, we don't necessarily absorb all of those calories. And I have a follow-up question after you describe to us this phenomenon about how fiber can kind of escort food out without us absorbing all 500 calories of a meal. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Who knew? At Tufts University back in 2017, they did an amazing study. They brought in a group of people. Half of them ate white bread and white rice. That's the fiber's been removed. The other half ate whole grain bread, brown rice. In other words, it still has the fiber. And then they fed them these meals. And they did something that, frankly, my research team is not going to do. They analyzed everybody's stool samples. And what they found, yeah, really, don't try this at home. What they found was that the whole grains carry fiber down the digestive tract. It acts like a sponge, and it finds unabsorbed calories, things you haven't absorbed yet, and it carries them out with the waste. And you flush those calories down the toilet. You don't absorb them at all. Now, it's about 100 calories a day, something like that, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not. But you're adding that effect to the effect of the appetite taming foods. And also there are foods that boost your metabolism. And the net effect is huge. So you add up the power of all of them.
So, a couple follow-up questions because I know people they're going to be wanting the easy way out, which is, well, can I just eat what I normally eat and then take some fiber supplements or take some psyllium husk? And my guess is that the answer to that is no. But tell me if I'm wrong here. And if I am correct, then why is it that we have to keep the food intact in order for this to happen?
Isn't it funny? We're eating foods that have cholesterol in them, and so we'll take a cholesterol lowering drug. We're eating foods where there's no fiber in them, like cheese or meat. They don't have fiber. So we have to go to the store and get a fiber supplement to take along with it. Mother Nature has a clue for us, which is your body needs fiber in order to function, for your digestion and for your hormonal balance, all of these things. Fiber also removes excess cholesterol. So if we're not eating the foods that have fiber, if we're having to go to the store for a supplement, we're not quite doing what nature had in mind for us. So in theory, you can get through life by trying to gerrymander all these sorts of dietary decisions together, but people do so much better by eating the whole food.
You know, Dr. B, I had noted that you are in that fourth level of intelligence because you have the ability to speak to people that are in the first level, and then you use the vocab term of gerrymander. And I don't know, I might have to take you out of that category. Only kidding. So you had mentioned that there are foods that boost our metabolism, and I'm sure everybody's wondering what that is, and I'm going to tell them to get a copy of the book, and they can find out. But let's talk about the foods that are tough on the metabolism. You do make mention of the effects of animal protein. Speak to us about that, because all people ask too. I thought that you had to eat more protein to boost your metabolism. And if you're not sick of answering that question, can you speak to that quickly?
Yeah, well, and let's also talk about some of the things that really do help with your metabolism. I'll give you a couple really quickly. We've been looking at this for a long time. Years ago, we brought in people who were losing weight with a plant-based diet, but we measure their metabolism along the way. And you should see how this is done. You sit in a chair and you put on a mask. You feel like a jet plane pilot. There's a mask where I'm measuring your oxygen consumption. And I'm also measuring how much carbon dioxide you're exhaling, because that's an index for how quickly your body is burning calories. And so I'll give you a stick of butter. I'll give you 2 sticks of butter. And what happens to your metabolism is nothing. Your metabolism does not boost. Butter is not a metabolism booster at all. Okay, mistake. Instead, let me give you some bread or something starchy, or a mixture of starch and proteins, some chickpeas, some beans that have protein in them, along with some starches like rice. And what you discover is, wait a minute, your metabolism doesn't stay still. It starts to rise. And when a person keeps doing this, that alone is a good thing. But if they keep with it, if they have no animal products and they keep oils low, about 2 or 3 months later, you do the same test again with the very same test meal. Their metabolism rises, but now it's rising even more because these foods have been programming their body for a faster and faster and faster metabolism. So a person first goes vegan on Wednesday. Thursday, they're going to do better because the meals are healthier. But if you check that same person over time, their metabolism continues to rise. The things that get in the way, the fatty stuff. It does not boost your metabolism at all. So the plant-based foods are the better ones.
And you talk about in the book on a cellular level how this affects your metabolic rate. What is going on there when we eat these foods? How does that affect our cells? As you noted earlier with the identical twins study, this is not just genetics, and our cells have the ability to adapt and change based on what we're eating.
Dramatically so. And there are a number of things going on, but one of the things that we've been most concerned about is that, let's say I eat a fatty food. I'm out at the pizzeria and I have my pizza, which is covered with 3/4 of an inch of yellow asphalt. And so I'm eating this pizza, and little bits of that fat go from my digestive tract and they get into your muscle cells. Sounds strange, doesn't it? That fat particles will get into your muscles, but they do. Fat particles also get into your liver. You don't know they're there. By the way, this is not belly fat or thigh fat. This is microscopic fat inside your muscle cells. Here's why that's a problem. Your muscles are your burners. Your muscles are what turn food into energy. And if they are getting full of little fat particles, they don't work anymore. And where this is a real problem is somebody with diabetes. If you got diabetes, your muscles are the cells that pull glucose, sugar, out of your blood. They're going to lower your blood sugar and use that sugar for energy. If they are filled up with fat, your cells don't respond anymore. Insulin comes down, attaches to that cell, and says, come on, take in the sugar, take in the glucose. It can't. The cell is filled with fat. Now, people with diabetes never heard this. They've been avoiding bread or potatoes and not getting very far. What we do is say, wait a minute, can I get that fat out of your cells? The way I do it is to get it off your plate. And when we do, their insulin resistance tends to improve and improve and improve. So if a person has diabetes, they get better. But what if you don't have diabetes? What if you're just trying to burn calories? Turning your muscles into supercharged calorie burners gives you more energy, but it helps you stay slim.
Now, you speak in the book about a lovely lady named Liz and watching her metabolic rate increase through your work together. A question that I often get from ladies in a similar position, usually heading into perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, is they want to know how fast and how much, i.e., how fast until I can start to see these results, and how much is my metabolism going to increase? And of course, we know that the answers to both of those questions are going to be variable. But what do you do when patients have these sorts of questions about how fast will my metabolism, quote unquote, recover, and how much is it going to recover?
Okay. Well, it's a great question, a natural question. And the answer is we're going to see, because everybody's different. Right now, we have lots of research patients who are doing exactly this, and everybody is kind of at a different rate. But what we can say with confidence is that it begins on day one, because on day one is your body is reprogramming, and the foods themselves are different. You're putting different foods into your furnace, so you're going to get a different burn right away. However, you saw a commercial on television of somebody who has lost a huge amount of weight in no time fast. Don't aspire to be a television commercial. Let your body recover at its own pace. You don't have to knock it all off today. If you're losing a pound a week, that's fine. There are 52 weeks in a year. You didn't put it on that fast. It's okay to take your time. You'll get there. Give yourself some time.
In the book, you also speak to not only the power of foods, but you speak to the power of spices too, and gave me some new information for one of my favorite foods, which is cinnamon. I always top my sweet potatoes with cinnamon, and I said, maybe this explains everything, how I'm able to eat so many potatoes and stay lean. So talk to us a little bit about how this doesn't just end at foods, but we can bring spices into this as well to help boost our metabolism, increase fat burn, and effortlessly release weight.
Yeah, cinnamon is a really cool one because researchers have long noted that it's not just a nice taste. There are natural compounds in cinnamon that affect your body. And there is a compound in it that's an aldehyde. That's the chemical term. And researchers, not being very creative people necessarily, named it cinnamaldehyde because it's in cinnamon. But it's there. And when you eat some cinnamon you put it on your oatmeal or on some toast or whatever, it goes down your digestive tract. And there's a receptor in your digestive tract, a molecular receptor, where the cinnamaldehyde attaches. And once it does, it turns on adrenaline production. Not huge, but just a little bit of adrenaline gets into your bloodstream. And adrenaline, of course, raises your metabolism. Not huge, but just dial it up a little bit. So researchers said, how far can I push this? They brought in a group of people, more than 100 people, and gave them either cinnamon or a placebo, dummy pill. And what they found is that if you could give a person about a teaspoon a day, which is not a heroic amount. I mean, you can put it on your toast or oatmeal or cereals or a lot of things, or some people even put it in tea. What they did with this group, though, they found that over about a 16-week period, they lost about 7.5 pounds just from the cinnamon alone. So I don't necessarily think a person needs to go that far. You just use however much you want. And there are other spices too. Ginger, for example. Ginger has active compounds in it, or one that a lot of people have experienced. Hot peppers. Go to your favorite Mexican restaurant, have a couple of jalapeno slices on your bean burrito, and you notice how your body doesn't feel the same. You start to feel hot. You're kind of sweating a little bit. What's in the hot pepper? Something called capsaicins, and that's responsible for the little tongue burn you get. And it actually does raise your body temperature a little bit for maybe an hour or so after the meal. Now, you might think, well, how about a bell pepper? That's not going to make me need a fire extinguisher. Will that work? No, it doesn't. Bell peppers are good. They have nice crunch, but they don't raise your metabolism at all. It's the capsaicins that do it.
And, to that point of trying to take the easy way out, this doesn't mean that we can eat a standard American diet and eat a tablespoon of cinnamon and it takes care of everything. Everything that's in this book all has to be used together in a major lifestyle change in order to get these desired results. Speaking to what you noted about how when you have that hot pepper, you are sweating for about an hour afterward, you do mention in the book the after meal calorie burn. And I sort of am noticing a recurring theme about the things that you are mentioning here, which is these effects that these foods have on us are not just in that meal alone. They carry with us for hours afterward and for weeks and months afterward, as you noted with metabolic changes following up for much time after with an increase in metabolic rate. What is this after meal calorie burn?
Well, yes, that's right. Your body absorbs nutrients. And so after the meal, it's going to have to be absorbing them and metabolizing them. And that process burns calories. But for many people, they're not eating foods that really trigger this very much. But if you're eating the right foods, and a low-fat plant-based diet really gets you there really easily, your metabolism will rise for about 3 or 4 or 5 hours after meal. But let me come back to something that you said that I think was really cool. The effects are ongoing because the one meal itself will affect your metabolism. But the meal is also doing something else. It's feeding your gut microbiome. And your gut microbiome, in turn, will be modified within 14 days of a diet change. Let's say overnight, you start increasing a lot of fiber, you're eating plant-based foods, or you go the opposite direction. You are dialing your microbiome in different directions. And when your microbiome is altered, that in turn can alter your cellular metabolism. So it's a good idea to nourish the healthy bacteria in your tract, and plant-based foods get you there.
Absolutely. Something that the other Dr. B, Dr. Will B, talks about in his book Fiber Fueled is this unbelievable study where 2 groups of people with dramatically different gut microbiomes were given the same diet. And I believe they did some sort of stool transplant, something along those lines, where they took the gut of the healthy people and put it into those that were unhealthy. And they found that those that were unable to lose weight, once their gut microbiome changed, given the same exact diet, they were able to release weight. And I know I don't have the scientific outline of that study correct, but speaking to you, what you've said, that when we change our gut microbiome, that's going to majorly affect how we digest the food.
And it happens very rapidly. Researchers in Pittsburgh did an interesting study where they looked at guys in Pittsburgh, and they brought in another group of people in rural South Africa. And the people in rural South Africa were eating a lot of beans and root vegetables, rather simple foods. And the folks in Pittsburgh were eating a lot of chicken wings and pizza. And what they asked them to do was, for 2 weeks, trade diet. Eat what the other group was eating. And what they discovered was that their microbiome changed dramatically. The gut bacterial populations changed dramatically within just 14 days' time. So most people don't go even 1 day giving their gut bacteria the nutrients that they really need.
How close the body is to healing. Here's something that you said at the Doctors for Nutrition conference that's always stuck with me, and I bring it up to my clients often. You said when you get a cut, you put on a Band-Aid, and a few days later you take off the Band-Aid, and what has happened? your skin's good to go. And what does that prove? It proves that the human body has the ability to heal. That's always stuck with me. And I've said that to my clients that seem to think that they're broken. And it's just unbelievable how close the body is to being good to go in a high functioning machine. But many people, A, don't give it a chance, or B, think that they're doomed due to their hormones or their age or their genetics or my whole family has this. But we are so close with these lifestyle changes to being in great health. It's a big mindset block, truly. But if you can push through that and stick with it for long enough, the human body has the ability to heal.
The Band-Aid doesn't heal you. It's within each skin cell, within its DNA, is a repair manual, and it allows the skin cells to reach across that was caused by the injury and to reconnect again. And broken blood vessels will reconnect. And it's not just your skin. You can break a bone. The cast doesn't heal you. The bones have the repair manual of their own. Your arteries can heal. If we stop spraying cholesterol in them with the foods we're eating, the arteries can actually clean out. We found that diabetes can heal. Weight can heal too. But here's an important thing. When you heal, there is sometimes a scar left over. And when it comes to weight problems, many, many people have been hurt for a long period of time. Sometimes a person might be gaining weight starting in teenage years. And what happens? They think, well, I shouldn't eat at all. And so they really starve themselves and they feel terrible. They can't stick with it. And so they start thinking, there's something wrong with me. I don't have any willpower. People are looking at me. I'm not going to be a good employee, a good partner, a good family member. And we end up beating ourselves up. And once we finally realize that old-fashioned starvation diets or keto diets or all these things, that's not the answer. The answer is giving our bodies the healthful foods that really nourish us, and you can conquer these weight problems in a more natural way. Then frankly, the bigger healing can occur. Realizing there's nothing wrong with you. You're a healthy person. You're a vigorous person, you're a capable person, and you can set aside those negative feelings. The scars that we've gone through can get better bit by bit, but I want that healing process to begin now for everybody.
When we lose and gain weight over and over, the genes become a little bit smarter and it gets a little bit harder to release that weight time and time again, due to our history, evolutionarily speaking, that we would be in periods of feast and famine. And if we kept being in periods of famine, we'd have to know how to hold on to some weight. Did you see this happen with, the people that you studied, individuals that had a history of yo-yo dieting, maybe were a little bit slower to see these effects?
There are a number of things that can hold us back. Yo-yo dieting doesn't help because, just as you said, your body does try to adapt. Your body will adapt to a starvation diet by slowing down your metabolism so that weight gain is more aggressive after you're refeeding. The other thing that can happen is if I've gained a lot of weight, your body sort of reacts kind of like the millionaire who's got a lot of money and suddenly they want to keep it. They don't want to give it to charity anymore. And the more wealthy they get, the greedier they tend to be. Well, if you've got a lot of body weight, your body gets a little greedy. It says, wait a minute, I might use this fat in the future if a famine arises. You can say to your body, you don't have to keep all the fat I've got. You can let it go. I promise you there's plenty later. But our bodies sometimes react by trying to hold on to that fat instead of letting it go. But you never know how far or how fast you will go. I was talking to a couple the other day. Both of them had a longstanding weight problem. They had done calorie counting. They had done ketogenic diets. They'd done both together. It was frustrating and kind of demoralizing. But when they started using what I'm going to call power foods, they found that weight loss was easy. And then it was faster than they had guessed would be possible because their weight issues had been longstanding. And then the psychological healing happens too, where you realize, you've got power not just over your waistline, but over a lot of other parts of your life too.
So where can we get a copy of this Power Foods Diet book?
Well, thank you for asking. It's coming out March 26th. And it's on Amazon now. It's on the online sites now. And I hope people will go there because if they do, then the same day that it's on the shelf in the bookstore, you've already got it. They will provide it for you the same day. But I do have one other request, actually, and that is if people pick up the Power Foods diet, I hope they enjoy it. I hope they profit from it. I hope it makes sense to them. And frankly, I hope they like the bang up recipes because they're really nice. Everything from French toast to desserts and everything. But my request is that they share it because they know somebody who's having trouble, and somebody who's skeptical, and somebody who doesn't want to try a different diet because they don't trust it. Give them a chance to just read these things, or better yet, make them something. Make my Southwest chili, or make my triple berry sorbet. Share it with them. You'll seduce taste buds. And when we share these things around, when we share the food, when we share the knowledge, we're helping our friends too. If you have kids, by sharing what you know and sharing healthy foods with them, you're going to protect them from a lot of the problems that kids face later in life.
The only way to keep what we have is to give it away, right?
Well said.
I have had the pleasure of reading it, and I'm excited for everyone watching to get their copy. Thank you so much for spending this afternoon with me. I'm really thrilled to share all this information.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward to our next selfie.
Awesome. Bye now.
All right, thanks.
If you made it to this point of the video, comment Power Foods, because the power is in your hands to eat the foods that are going to walk you to your way to ultimate health. And if you would love to have Dr. B back on the channel, comment Encore and we'll see if we can do an encore with him. I love you, honeys, and I'll see you in my next video.